Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode number 17 of the Sifting Reclaiming Authenticity podcast. My name is Jonah. I'm here with my wife, Lindsay. Lindsay, how are you today?
We're good.
Yeah, just peachy. Doing peachy well.
Peachy well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for joining us today. You can follow the Sifting on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, as I'm sure you know if you're listening to this. But we are here every 2 weeks, every other Monday, with new episodes for you. We got plenty of stuff coming up the pipeline, or coming down the pipeline, I guess, is how you say that. So make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment. If you like something about it, comment, tell us what you like. If you don't like something about it, comment, tell us that too. We are open to all sorts of discussion, and our vision and our goal is to have discussions around the episodes that we have and the discussions that we have. And we love that you guys are a part of that. We love that you listen to it, and we love that you interact with us. So we love that. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. Thank you guys for choosing to listen to us again. This is episode number 17, and before we get into the episode today, today is going to be all about what we've learned after 2 years, well, almost 2 years, but by the time you guys hear it, it will be 2 years of being married. Because me and Lindsay are approaching, in just 2 days now from recording this, it's our 2-year wedding anniversary. So it's hard to believe it's been that long. People listening to this who have been married for 30 years are like, it's not that long. But for us it feels like a really long time. It's hard to believe that it's been that long, and that Lindsay's put up with me for so long, and I've tested the limits of all her patience, of all her fruits of the Spirit. So yeah, we'll get into it today here in just a moment. Before we do, have we done anything fun in the past couple weeks? Has there been anything exciting that we've done?
Had some dinners with friends.
Yeah, we had some dinners with friends. We went
hiking.
Yeah, we went hiking yesterday morning. So we have, our dogs are an Australian Shepherd and a Border Collie Lab mix.
She's a golden retriever.
Retriever mix, not a lab. So I got that mixed up. But yeah, so they're really just active dogs. So if you have those breeds, you have to make time to get them exercise, make time to get them outside, and that's what they enjoy. That's what they love doing. So we try to make a point to always do that, and it's ended up being a really fun thing because it's something that we can do together. Tying into the marriage theme and the marriage topic of this episode, it's a hobby that we can share together. So it ends up being really nice. But we took them for a walk yesterday morning. And we live next to this this old dam that they turned into kind of a park, and with all sorts of trails to hike and picnic areas and stuff like that. So we got there yesterday morning. We started a hike. We walked for, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so before we were finished with our trail. So we were like, yeah, I mean, it was only half an hour. We can go for a little bit longer. So we drive over to another area, and we start walking on another trail. And we're expecting this to be like 15 minutes. Another 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll walk and we'll head back home and whatnot. I think we got going on this trail, and we ended up walking for, it had to have been close to an hour. It was probably close to an hour. At the very least, like 45 minutes to an hour. We started walking, and we're like, we'll head back eventually. And we just kept walking and walking and walking, and it just kept going and going and going. So the girls loved it. Like they have all the stamina. They can do an hour and a half of walking like that, like we did yesterday morning, with relatively no problem. For Jonah, it's a little bit more difficult. What made it difficult? Because I I run a lot. Like we have a treadmill, and I love using our treadmill. It's my way of staying healthy. And I walk, I run all the time. I consider my stamina to be quite high for things like that, hiking and walking and such. The problem was, I didn't make the best decision for breakfast. I had a bowl of s'mores cereal, and that was the only thing that I had for breakfast. S'mores cereal and a little bit of peanut butter, and that's what I was hiking on an hour and a half with in my stomach. So I had nothing but sugar just flowing through my body, which halfway through the hike did not end up working in my favor. Lindsay had a McMuffin, so at least she had some protein, she had some carbs, she had some energy for the hike. I had absolutely nothing. So we get about halfway through the second hike, and I'm slowing down, and I can feel it. Like my body is not, like the meme statement, like my body was not ready for this. Like literally, my body was not ready for a hike of that length. What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
You were no. But yeah, my my body was not ready with only a bowl of s'more cereal in it. So I should have made a smarter decision than that. But like, I'm a cereal lover, and Saturday's usually my only day to eat cereal. I just need to find something a little bit more, something that's not so chock full of sugar to eat, I guess. So, yeah, I'm learning. You live and you learn. And at least it wasn't worse. At least we didn't go on, hike up a big mountain or anything solely on a bowl of sugary cereal. So I learned, and I'm sure somebody will point that out in the comments about my stupid breakfast decision yesterday morning. But other than that, we had a great time. I'm like super thirsty today. All I've had is I've just had a Crystal Light and a Coke, and that's all I've had to drink today. So I feel quite dehydrated. So I'm going to be taking a lot of drink breaks, I'm sure. Anything else we've done before we... Oh, you said, yeah, we've had dinner with some of our friends a couple nights this week. So Friday night we went to Red Robin, and that was good. So Red Robin is a burger place. Everybody knows what Red Robin is probably. I'm not sure why I felt the need to point that out. But yeah, that was fun. And then you went with some friends to Panera Bread last night, which I love Panera Bread. It's a little pricey for me, but...
Who calls it Panera Bread?
Me. That's what... when you drive up to the restaurant, that's what it says on the sign.
Still,
it says Panera Bread.
Includes the bread.
Well, if you're...
Who are you?
If you've never heard of it before and you just look up Panera, you might find Panera Bread. But I mean, somebody might look it up and they realize, like, oh, they might not know that it's the exact same restaurant that people are talking about. So it helps to be detailed in every area of life, which is why I say Panera Bread. So I'm the most detailed person that I know.
I thought I was the most detailed person you knew.
That's true. Okay. Well, we'll quit gabbing here. So we just like to keep you guys informed of cool stuff that we do. We've got a trip planned pretty soon, so we'll talk to you guys about that after we get back from our trip. So we're excited for that. Just a little getaway for a couple days that we're going to do coming up. But yeah, today we're going to discuss marriage. Now,
what brings us together today?
If you get that reference, we can be friends. But if you don't get that reference, we can't be friends. I actually didn't know The Princess Bride until you showed it to me. I had never seen it before. And one day we must have been talking about it or something, and you're like, yes, we're watching Princess Bride. So now I understand at least some of the references. I don't know, I'm just, that kind of humor is not my jam. I like a different kind of humor. But yes.
Which is no humor.
Which is no humor, suspense. Right? It's just dry humor.
You like to be stressed out when you watch a movie.
That's my humor. I like to be stressed out. That's a form of humor for me. Okay. We're going to get into the discussion today, which, like I said, is about marriage. Which is, we haven't really tackled anything like this, simply because we are still kind of babies at this.
Yeah, we don't know nothing.
Yeah, we don't. I don't consider myself a marriage expert. I don't think Lindsay does either. We've only been doing this for 2 years now. I'm sure, after we have 20 years of experience, after we have 25 years of experience, we might be in a position where we can really like strongly give people advice. But still, we wanted to kind of change it up, do something a little bit different for this episode, and talk about lessons that we've learned after our first 2 years of marriage. And my prayer for this episode is that we would allow the Holy Spirit to come in, and we would allow him to touch this discussion, and we would allow him to empower us to have healthy marriages within our Christian communities. In church today, the pastor said something. They said that marriages are at the front line of the church. Before the church body, there are marriages. And the church body is put together and it's made up of marriages. And so if we want to have a healthy church body, it would do us well to pursue healthy marriages. And even outside of the church body meeting together and the church body being assembled together, it does us well as individuals, as men and women, and as Christians, to dedicate ourselves to having a healthy marriage. And of course, there are certainly a lot of people who may listen to this who may not be married. Maybe you're single, maybe you're dating. And if that's you, I still think there's a lot of use for you in this episode, because you can take tools that we talk about today and apply them to your future spouse and apply them to your future self. So you are better prepared for when that season comes, when the time is right, and you find that person that you want to spend your entire life with. You'll be better ready. You'll be better prepared. You'll know more of what to expect. I think that before you get married, there are certain things that you just are impossible to expect, because every person is different, and there are things about a person that you're just not going to know until you're living together and until you're doing life together. But in general, these are tools that you may be able to take with you. If you're dating and you're talking about marriage, if you're thinking about it, if you're praying about it, or if you're single and you're just still waiting for the time to be right to look for that person. So we really believe that there's something in this episode for everybody. And we believe that through the help of the Holy Spirit, we will be able to find a pathway towards a healthier marriage that benefits us, that benefits our churches, and benefits our communities. So, Lindsay, anything from you before we get into it? Anything about that introduction you want to expand upon?
No.
Nothing? Okay.
You're the talkative half.
There we go. This is an example of learning each other, right? So I'm the more talkative person, so I kind of take the lead on the episodes a little bit more. But Lindsay still has an incredible amount of insights, so I try to open the door to allow her to speak the things that are on her mind and the things that are stirring on her heart. Yeah, exactly, just like that. So yeah, we aren't experts. We're still beginners at this. But I think we've learned a couple things, at least, after a few years of being together. And again, I think there's something here for everybody, no matter who you are listening to this. So, number one, this is the biggest lesson that I think I've learned. And if there's anything that I could say, and if there's anything that has stood out to me the most, it would be this. Communicate with each other often and thoroughly. I think you learn very fast when you get married that being in a dating relationship and being in a marriage relationship are two entirely different things. And yes, what you learn in a dating relationship carries over into a marriage relationship, but you can't really rely on the way that you lived in your dating relationship to necessarily succeed in the way that you live in your marriage relationship. And I think the easiest way that can be that can be a picture is obviously when you're dating, you're likely not living together, right? Well, as Christians, we believe that you shouldn't live together. We believe that you should wait to do that until you're married. But, when we were dating, obviously we weren't living together. We would go to see each other on certain days. We would see each other at church, but we weren't with each other every moment of the day. Now, anytime that we're not working, we're with each other almost all the time. So that's been something that,
Except when I go to Panera Bread.
except when you go to Panera Bread.
With
That's
my
right.
friend.
Your favorite place, Panera Bread. I don't
That's a reach.
I don't understand why.
I like Panera. It's not my favorite.
I think this shows I think just saying Panera is indicative of the laziness in our vocabulary.
Okay, I distracted
Panera
you.
Bread is
I distracted you.
it rolls right off the tongue. Panera Bread.
Focus.
Right. Okay. I'll stop talking about Panera. Maybe. I don't know. We might carry that joke through the
We're
whole
together
episode.
all the time.
Right. We are together. Thank you. Another example of marriage. Yeah, we're together all the time, which is wonderful and it's great. But it is different. And I think that that's something for a lot of people that they have to get used to in some ways. And for sure, it's something that, we had to get used to in ways because we each have our routine and we each have our schedule and we each have our the things that we do and the things that we like to do. And you've got, responsibilities that you have hobbies that you have. And when you're dating, you can kind of keep all of that the same because you're not together all the time. But when you're married and you're together all the time, you really have to think about how you're living your life. And you have to think about this person, my spouse, is the most important thing in my life. I always say that Lindsay is the biggest blessing that I'll ever receive. She's the greatest gift that I will ever receive. And as God's gift to me, it's my responsibility to make sure that Lindsay feels cared for and that Lindsay feels safe, that she feels nurtured, that she feels protected. And that requires me to think about the way that I live. And I think as a single person, you don't really have to think about that as much. But when you're married, that really starts to come to the forefront. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts about that? Just the anything about the newness of being married as opposed to just dating.
I think it's weird that you realize, you didn't realize how much the things that, hurt that other person hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new kind of hurt. That, the things that can hurt their feelings or injure their heart, hurt you more than things that come against you yourself, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
People can pick on me all day, I don't care. But then I'll shank a fool talking about Jonah.
And I would do the same. I don't know if I would shank somebody, but I would certainly be very upset if somebody was talking about you badly.
You wouldn't shank somebody for it.
Well, shanking's a little extreme. I think I think just confronting them in a healthy way and to solve conflict and kind of put some boundaries on them and get them back in their lane, I think is maybe a healthier method than shanking somebody. I interrupted you. You can continue.
Oh no, I was done.
You were done. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Like, if Lindsay is sick, I'm upset because I would much rather just take that sickness for her. And like, I would much rather just take it on me. Seeing her have to juggle something heavy and seeing her have to carry something heavy or seeing something that hurts her or harms her in any way, I'm like, I'm way, way more conscious of that now than I was when we were dating. And, you know, when we were dating and you were sick, I still tried to take care of you and I still tried to, do all the things that you like, bring you some food and make sure you were taken care of. But now being married, I feel like it sort of hits in a different way. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, right?
Yes.
If you're married, you know.
Just expressed.
Yeah. If you're married, you did. You just expressed what you thought about that. If you're married, you know exactly what that means. So, yeah, communication. I think you owe it to your spouse when you're living so close to each other and you are living so intertwined with one another. There is no other relationship that you have that's like that. All of your other relationships, there are boundaries and there are I don't know, boundaries, I guess is the right word for it. There are lines and boundaries between all of your relationships. You don't see your friends all the time. You're not with your friends all the time. Most people, if you've graduated high school and you're out of your house, most people are not around their parents all of the time. But when you're with your spouse, whenever we're not working, we're together just all the time. And when you have a relationship that's that close and something that's that important and something that needs to be cared for that dearly, communication, I think, is the number one thing that you have to get better at. We all could be better at communicating. I kind of think of it like this. Nobody is an expert in communication. Everybody has something they could do to be better at communicating. So we try to communicate with each other the best we can. We don't always do the best job at it. We don't always. You gave me a look like, Lindsay gave me a look like, no, you don't always do the best job at it, which I don't. I'm working on it. Like I said, everybody's working on it. Everybody has something that they could improve on. But I will say this. You owe it to your spouse to communicate, and especially to communicate about how you feel. It's very possible to live in the same house, to be together all the time, and still not know how each other feels. One of the things that I've had to learn about Lindsay is that Lindsay can't read my mind. Like, Lindsay doesn't know all of the things that are in my mind all the time. So for instance, if I had in my mind that I want Lindsay to make dinner tonight, and my expectation is Lindsay's going to make dinner tonight, Lindsay might have an expectation in her mind that says, I want Jonah to make dinner tonight. Like, I want him to make a frozen pizza or whatever it is I can make. You're the cook. Lindsay may have an expectation that says, well, I want Jonah to take care of dinner tonight. And if we never communicate that to each other, it's going to be 7 o'clock and we're both going to be looking at each other like, why haven't you made dinner? And I'm like, well, why haven't you made dinner? Lindsay's like, why haven't you made dinner? There was an expectation present that was never communicated. Like, I never told Lindsay, said, hey, I'd like you to take care of dinner. I'll take care of dishes. I'll take care of the dogs if you can just please do dinner tonight. Lindsay never communicated to me saying, hey, could you please make dinner tonight? I have some other things that I want to do. Those expectations were never communicated. And so you owe it to your spouse to communicate, especially about how you feel. I saw a Instagram post a while back, and it said, you can have an action in your life that may hurt your spouse, and you can just continue to do that over and over and over again. Or your spouse may be doing an action that hurts you. Excuse me. And they might be doing it over and over and over again. But unless you communicate how it makes you feel, they may never realize that that action is hurting you. Because we're not mind readers. Like, we can't read each other's minds. We have to communicate about how we feel. We have to communicate about things that we like and things that we don't like, and things that I do that Lindsay likes, things that I do that Lindsay hates, things that I do that
Like when you
Lindsay...
put the remote across the room from the couch.
Like when I put the remote across the room for the couch, I'm not thinking about it. Like, it's not a big deal to me. But for Lindsay, like, that's something that she communicates because she wants the remote to be right there. So, as small as an example that is, it's an example nonetheless. So yeah, you owe it to your spouse to communicate what you need and what you don't need. And you also owe it to your spouse to learn how they communicate and to learn that way of communication, even if it's different than yours. So, like, we've all heard about the book, The Five Love Languages, and the author of that book. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great wisdom. But it to me, this is just me, it seems severely limiting when trying to understand communication with your spouse, because your spouse does not fall into one of the five love languages. They fall into a hybrid of dozens and dozens of love languages. There is no one key that you can just insert into your spouse's heart to communicate and say, oh, they like what's the time? Quality time. Like, Lindsay enjoys quality time a lot. She enjoys doing things together and whatnot. But it would be wrong of me to assume that Lindsay enjoys quality time, so she never needs words of affection. So she never needs gifts. So she never needs physical touch or anything like that. It would be wrong of me to just say, okay, that's how Lindsay communicates. Okay, that's easy. So I just spend time with her and she's happy. But
I like food gifts.
And you like food gifts. Exactly. So there's an element of gift giving that you really like and that you receive as communication. So if you just look at the five love languages that he presents in that book, they're useful, sure. They're great. They were a great starting point, I think. But your spouse does not fall into just one of five categories. People are way, way, way more complex than that. There are dozens and dozens of love languages. And I think if you're having trouble communicating with your spouse, you might have to search for a love language that they connect with and that reaches them, that does not belong to just one of the five. They might have a hybrid of several different ones. Sure, there's gift giving, but there's, food gifts. And food gifts is unique to Lindsay. She loves that. And she loves quality time. So, if I put those hybrid things together, Lindsay would love if I just brought home like some snacks and said, let's watch a movie together. And, we've done that in the past and that's been great. But your spouse is always a hybrid of many different languages, of many different ways of communicating. And that's, like, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but after 2 years of marriage, I look at that book and I'm like, maybe it's great if you're beginning to learn how to communicate with each other, but I don't know how you could sustain an entire lifetime of communication skill solely based on those five things. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? Nothing? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's what I've taken away as the top thing is just learning how to communicate and practicing communication. And yeah, there's going to be tough days where you get to the end of the day and you're like, my God, like I don't know how we even made it through that day. We didn't communicate very well, and this didn't get done as a result, and as another result, this didn't get done, and this didn't happen the right way. This didn't happen the right way. But then there's days where we communicate really well, and it's the exact opposite. So it's a learning process, and it's just something you have to work on as you get older and as you mature and as you tally more years into your marriage. It's something that I think you get better at, and something that you start to learn more and more as you as you stay together and such. So yeah, communication. Toffee just came in and she's giving us a stare right now from the door. Okay, she's leaving. Number 2, make the time to invest in each other. So, like we said, being married means you are doing life together. And as we all know, life can get very hectic. It can get very busy. It can get very intense sometimes. Our schedules can easily fill up with just different responsibilities, different things that we take on. It can get hectic. It can get really busy sometimes. And in the middle, and in the cycle of having a busy life, and of doing life together, it's possible to really not feel connected. Like if you just you can sign up for 20 different ministries together at church, and you guys can do those ministries together, but it's possible that you're doing those 20 ministries but you just don't feel connected, because yeah, you have this great thing that you're doing together, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's very easy to feel disconnected in the middle of that. So you have to make time to invest in each other. Think about this. When we were dating, I would drive and Lindsay would drive almost an hour to each other's places. We lived close to an hour apart. And so every time that we would get together and see each other, we had to drive an hour away. Well, that certainly is not the most convenient thing. You know what I mean? Like driving an hour away to see each other. And sometimes we'd see each other and we just, we would just stay at home together and, watch a movie and get something to eat, take out, and, just enjoy the time together. Other times we might go out and do something. But the point was, we were investing in each other. And although I would never go back to being an hour apart from each other, I would never want that again. There was something uniquely sweet about that, because we were prioritizing our investment in each other and our investment in our time together. And as you get married and you start to take on life together, I think it can be really difficult sometimes to invest in that time together like you used to. Which sounds weird if you're somebody that's not married, because you might think, wow, you get married, now you're together all the time and you're just always with each other and you do everything together. And that's true, but most often you're doing things like going to the grocery, or you're doing things together that are not necessarily, they don't look like the investment you were making in each other when you were dating, if that makes sense at all. It's more just the day-to-day kind of life activities. And I think you can turn those day-to-day life activities into opportunities to invest in each other, which is wonderful, and that's great. But you may not know that when you get married for the first time and you're in the hustle and bustle, especially when you first get married, because you're trying to find a place, which is not easy, an apartment, house, whatever. You might be trying to plan a wedding. You're trying to get all your stuff moved in. You're trying to get all of your bank accounts merged together, and you know, wife is getting her name changed, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And weirdly enough, I think that can be a time where you just aren't connecting with each other as much because you've got so much busy life stuff happening. So, all of that to say, I think it's important to invest in each other. Me and Lindsay are fortunate enough. I consider this a blessing because we've talked to people that unfortunately this is not the case for, and this is a lot more difficult for them. Me and Lindsay are fortunate enough to have dinner every night. We work practically the same hours every single week. So we get off work, we come home, and we get to sit down and have dinner together. And sometimes we sit at our table. Sometimes we might watch a show together. But the point is that time of day is our time to connect and invest in each other. It's important that even if you don't have that time, to make that time somewhere else. So you may not have the ability to have meals together, but there's got to be another time of day where you guys are both all the responsibilities are kind of pushed away, and you guys can invest and you guys can take that time to talk and to connect with each other. So me and Lindsay are fortunate enough. I value our dinners together, even when we're just watching TV together, because we just got finished with a long day, and I look forward to coming home and having dinner with Lindsay and talking to her and asking her how her day was and asking her how she feels. What did you like about today? What did you not like about today? Is there anything that we need to do? Is there anything that we need to talk about? I value that time very much because it's my time to connect with her, and it's my time for us to be able to invest in each other. We're going on a trip soon, and the main reason I'm looking forward to it is we're going to be able to have that time away from everything else in life to just reconnect and invest in each other and just enjoy that time and enjoy those memories together. That's the number one reason I look forward to things like that. And we try to make a point. I know not everybody has the availability to make little weekend trips here and there, but we try really hard to implement that into our schedule every year. So yeah, taking the time to invest in each other. My vocabulary is not working again. And it doesn't always have to be in the big things. It's in the small things, in the simple things. Ask your spouse, hey, can I take care of dinner tonight? Clean the dishes if your spouse made dinner without being asked to do it. Ask if they want you.
Dinner tonight?
Maybe we got to talk about that. I had that on my mind before we were recording, and I meant after we were done recording, I was going to ask you about it so we could make plans on what we were going to do. It's like communication, right? Communication at work in Jonah and Lindsay's marriage. You're seeing it live. But yeah, ask if you want them to bring you home something to eat, bring you home a coffee in Lindsay's case. Talk to them, or a smoothie, right? Talk to them about a passion that they have or an interest that they have, and show that you care about that passion and that interest too. You might really love bicycling, or your spouse might really love bicycling, and you couldn't care less about bicycling, but it matters a lot to your spouse that you ask, hey, how's your bicycling going? And you just make some sort of effort to be invested in the things that they love and the things that they enjoy, and the things that they're passionate about. Those things go into the investment that you guys make in each other. And so, yeah, I would say that's about all I have for investing. Lindsay, do you have anything? You have a smile on your face. I think you've got something.
No, I was just thinking of me trying my best to understand football.
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right? I'm I'm a big football fan and an NFL fan. And after the first month of dating, I think we had been together for about a month. I invited Lindsay over to watch the Super Bowl with me and my family. And Lindsay was not a football fan at all. It's not really an interest, it's not really a passion of hers. But she sat there and she watched the entire Super Bowl with me. And afterwards, she was like, I don't really know what's happening. I don't really know what's going on. But it meant a lot to me that she just was there and that she took some sort of interest in something that, you know, I was interested in. And I try to make an effort into the things that Lindsay's passionate about and the things that Lindsay's interested in. The biggest passion that I know Lindsay has is worship leading, and it's worship music, and it's being a ministry leader in those areas. So I try to invest myself into her process, and only she can say if she feels like I do that in a valuable way or not. But I try to make an effort to ask her about what she's doing, what she's up to, experiences that she's had. If she leads worship, I want to be there. I want to be present. I want to be supportive of her. Like I know that's her biggest passion. Lindsay has a passion for our girls, our dogs. She loves them with her entire heart, and I do too. And Toffee just jolted up as soon as I said that.
Oh.
She recognized. Um, it's so weird. I swear they're like humans sometimes. They think like humans and they recognize our language. Anyway, this is not a dog psychology episode. Um, Lindsay loves them an insane amount. So I try to make an effort to, take them on walks and to interact with them and do my best to try and take care of them when I can and whatnot. So I'm trying to invest myself in something that she's passionate about. And Lindsay, like I said, does the exact same thing for me. And so making the time to invest in each other. Yeah, I think I've said so much on that now. I don't think I have anything else. Lindsay, you have any notes on that?
No.
Any thoughts? No? Okay. Number 3, be humble, be patient, and be willing to learn. Marriage teaches you something very valuable. That life isn't all about you and what you want. And thank God it's not. That's a really, really good thing. Because if it were all about me, I'd be in trouble. Like if my life was all about me, I'd be pretty depressed and I'd be pretty sad, I think, when I reach the end of my life. And so when you get married, you realize very fast that everything you do, even though you might think it's harmless, ends up affecting somebody else. So my failures to communicate in some ways end up affecting Lindsay. Or my desire to do something that I want to do instead of, considering Lindsay's perspective ends up hurting Lindsay. And so I think it's important to understand and to realize and to accept that life is not all about you. It's not all about you chasing your dreams and you chasing your passions. It's about each other. It's not about pushing you to the side. It's about joining together. It's about saying, you know what, it's not all about me. It's about us. And it's about us being together. And yeah, we each have a vision for what we want our day, week, month, year, decade, and life to be. But it's not going to be just all about me and all about the picture that I have. It's going to be about us coming together and doing it together. What's up?
Do you remember? I don't remember how many years it is, but it's like a number of years that it takes people to switch from saying me to we.
Oh, it's like
Even.
7 or 8, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's long.
I the number 7 and 8 stand out to me. I'm trying to figure out why, but I think it takes people years to go from talking about me to we. And let's say you get married at 25. You've been saying me for 25 years now. Let's say you get married at 35. You've been saying me for 35 years now. And you've been thinking as me for that long. And it's a rewiring of everything that you've ever known and everything in your brain. We're still thinking, we're still having to correct our thinking and our language from me to we, because marriage is not all about me, and marriage is not all about Lindsay. It's about Jonah and Lindsay, and that's our life.
Why'd your name come first?
It's about Lindsay and Jonah. Is that better? You like that better? Has that got a better ring to it? It's about us together. It's not about me. It's about we. And I think that often requires us to learn new skills. I think skills that we didn't have to practice as single people, things that we didn't have to practice as dating couples. There's a preacher that I enjoy listening to. His name is Tim Ross, and he runs a podcast out of his. It's called The Basement. I don't know if it's literally out of his basement or what, but he calls it The Basement, and it's fairly popular. If you look it up, you can find it. But he said something a while back. It was actually recently. He said something about marriage that really stood out to me. He said, most people don't need a divorce. Most people that think they need a divorce don't actually need a divorce. What they need is to learn new skills as a married person. And they're just not willing to learn new skills. Or he kind of phrased it like this. People need to learn a new dance. They don't need a new divorce. They don't need a divorce. They need to learn a new dance. Something that worked in year 1 of our marriage may not work in year 8 of our marriage. We'll have to learn new skills about how to communicate with each other, about how to live together, about how to successfully stay connected with each other and to each other. There are different seasons that you go through in marriage, and each season might require you to learn something new that you didn't have to before. And I don't know what it is sometimes about human beings and learning new things, but we seem to be super opposed to it. I try to have the perspective of, if I'm in a situation where I have to learn something new, I see that as greatly beneficial to me, because I'm learning something that not only is going to help me now, but it's going to help me in the future at some point. It's a tool that I can put in my pocket. So he says that a lot of people think that they need a divorce, and they'll end up leaving a spouse who was amazing for them and who loved them and cared for them and could take them farther than they could by themselves. They end up leaving all of that simply because at the end of the day, they didn't want to learn something new. And sure, certainly every situation is more complicated than that. But part of it may be able to be traced back down to that, towards a hardness of heart against learning something new. I think you can get to a season where you can do everything that you guys did in your first couple years, but you'll get to a season where you have to just learn something new, and you're going to have to learn to do a new dance together. And the first time that happens, I think, is when you go from dating to married. When you put those rings on each other's finger and you say your vows. That's the first major shift that you have to do, where you say, okay, I have to learn new skills. We have to learn how to do a new dance together. Because if we continue living and acting and treating each other and investing in each other like we were dating, we're not going to succeed. We're going to have to learn a new way of living together and a new way of being together. And certainly in many ways, we've learned that. And I think that I see a lot of people who are stuck in their marriage. Again, we're not experts. We're not experts. But I see a lot of people that sometimes I just want to say, learn something new. Be willing to learn something new. This is why marriage therapy and marriage counseling is such a useful, wonderful tool. A lot of people don't consider marriage counseling until it's crisis, like their marriage is on the line, and if they don't do something, if they don't act, things are going to get really bad. People don't think about counseling till crisis. But what makes counseling so great is you might be in a season where you just don't know the tools that you need to connect with each other because you've never had to use them before. You don't even know what they are. And so sometimes it helps to see a counselor. This is not just for marriage. This is for life in general. A counselor is somebody that helps give you tools to succeed in the season of life that you're in. When you feel like you're drowning, you're going to need to know how to make a life jacket. And if you don't know how to make a life jacket, you're just going to keep sinking and keep sinking. Well, we encounter that in marriage and we encounter that in life where sometimes we need to make a life jacket, but we don't know how to make a life jacket. And I think that's where counseling comes in great help. Somebody comes alongside you and says, hey, let me help you. Let me show you and teach you the skills that you need in order to succeed. So be humble, be patient with each other, and just be willing to learn. Be willing to learn new things about yourself, new things about your partner, and a new way of living that benefits you both. You both will have to compromise. You both will have to sacrifice some. But that's the whole point, because it's not about us. We do it so we can be better together. Okay, Lindsay, anything that you have about that?
Just as a side note, if the dance you gotta learn is like dodging punches, just take back everything we just said.
Yeah.
Don't
The one dance you don't want to learn
don't
is
compromise if that's your situation.
Yeah, the one
You
dance.
You need a whole other set of help and advice if that's the dance you're dealing with.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that?
No.
Nothing? Yeah. So, those are just a couple things. I have this note on here, and I wanted to say it. I almost forgot about it. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have habits that you have to keep working to break and do better at. And guess what? Your spouse is going to have habits that drive you crazy and you wish they would break, and they're trying, but you have to be patient and you have to be humble in that process. Because we who are married are in a constant learning and evolving process. Nobody is an expert. I'd say if you've been married 70 years, you're probably an expert. But everybody else, we're all just learning. And we're all getting better at this. And the Holy Spirit's helping us. And God is guiding us. Because God knows that we're all better together than we are by ourselves. That's why he made Eve with Adam. Because Adam by himself could never cultivate the garden. I'm going to say something that's going to upset some people. But just if God was the only one that Adam had, it would not be enough. If Adam only had God, that's not enough. And God says that. He says it's not good for it to just be me and you. You need someone else with you. You need a partner with you. And that's when God brings in Eve. If we have the mindset of like, oh, I've got God, I'm good, that's all I have. The Bible rebukes that thinking. God created us to be together and to be in community. And God speaks in groups of people. God speaks through communities of people. And the first group and community he speaks through, is your spouse towards you. Your spouse is not, your spouse is a voice of God for your life. You would do wise, I think, to listen to your spouse and to consider the things that they say. And listen, we're all trying to do better at that. We're all learning. We're all trying, right? None of us are perfect at that. Sometimes our spouse says one thing and it goes in one ear and out the other. But there are times where I think God really speaks through your spouse. And I love that. I love that about God. How he works through people, and he loves to work through people. And I have this note on here also. Don't love the person that you wish your spouse would be. Love the person that they are right now. Just as Christ loves the church the way it is right now. You can have an image of what you want your spouse to be, but it's possible that your spouse will never be that image. And if they never are that, then you are now loving and adoring an idol, essentially, I think. You're loving somebody that doesn't even exist. Love your spouse as they are. No one is perfect. Your spouse isn't going to be perfect. You're not perfect. Love your spouse as they are. And I think that's a great note to end it on. Hopefully that's a great note to end it on. That's not for me to say. Yeah. Don't...
You got our number 4, though.
Oh, yeah. I do have one more thing, and we'll end it on this. Number 4, just very simply, thank God for your spouse and welcome him into your life together. With God, all things are possible. You can do this. You can do it. Maybe you've been married for a year and it's just been hell on earth. Maybe it's been hard. You can do this. You guys chose to get married for a reason, right? And again, I'm nobody. I've just been married for 2 years. But maybe you're somebody who's been married for a really long time. And you guys are at a point of difficulty. You can do this. Because with God, all things are possible. And when you welcome God in and you allow him to move, and when you start thanking him for your spouse, there's a big difference between saying, Lord, I pray that you would fix my spouse, and this way, and this way. And saying instead, Lord, I thank you for my spouse. I know they're not perfect, but I celebrate the things that are great about them. I celebrate the gifts that you have, that you've put in them. I celebrate the things that, the dreams you've put in them, and the callings that you've put in them, and the things that they love, and the things that they want to do. I celebrate those things. I celebrate the fact that they do dishes every single night. God, thank you for giving me this person. God, thank you for giving me somebody to love. What?
You're
What you
really
laughing
patting
about?
yourself on the back there.
I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to. If I do
like
all,
dropping a hint.
I do.
Thank you, God, for that person who does the dishes every night.
I do all of the dishes in our house. So we joke around and say that I'm the operating dishwasher within our home. So anyways, what's the last note I have here? Thank God for your spouse and who they are. Your life would be significantly worse without that person. You are better together, and that's the work of God. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We praise you that you've given us marriage as an image of your love for the church and our love for each other. Thank you that you speak through marriage and that you work through marriage and that you always encourage us for a healthier marriage. God, we love you. Thank you for this time together today. I pray that someone would be able to take something away that significantly shifts and improves the atmosphere of their marriage and the relationship they have with their spouse. Single or married, I pray that there's a tool in here for somebody. God, we thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.
And
Okay.
if you know what you're doing, unlike us, go here on YouTube, or go back to the social media post and just drop your best piece of marriage advice.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, thank you so
That's fun.
much.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.